Hi, I am Helmut Licht. Thank you for joining me for this video. In this particular video, I would like to explain to you how a website that I just launched recently came about, what the purpose of it is, and after I explain to you all that, I will give you the information so you can go to the website and participate. Hopefully you will. All right. Somewhere in 1973 or 4, my musical combo was playing at a nightclub in Cumberland, Maryland. When the evening was over, I asked the waitress for my check. And one particular evening, I asked her for the check. She came over and gave it to me, and as she handed it to me, a huge Catholic cathedral popped into my mind. I saw it, and the cathedral is located about 1 mile from my home in Baltimore. She must have noticed my expression and said, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Well, Sandy, the moment you gave me the check and you and I both touched it, a huge Catholic cathedral flashed in my mind." She looked at me, her eyes got big, and she pointed at an older lady by the bar and said, "See this lady over there? She has been telling me all about Catholicism for the last hour." I knew immediately that whatever was on Sandy's mind as she handed me the check was shown to me through an image that I was familiar with. Since the majority of people would classify such an experience as weird, I kept it to myself. However, thoroughly intrigued, I kept developing this talent, ability, gift, or whatever you else might call it. I was careful to do it only with people I knew well and who were inclined to and had an open mind for such endeavors. Upon my return to Baltimore, I attended a one-day workshop given by SAM, Society for the Advancement of Man, which is no longer in existence. As much as I remember, the gist of the workshop was that our mind operates, vibrates in 4 different stages or frequencies: alpha, beta, theta, and delta. For detailed information on these, check out this great explanation at this website. Here is a brief explanation of the 4 stages. Beta waves are characteristics of a strongly engaged mind. For instance, a person in active conversation would be in beta. A person who takes time out to reflect or meditate is usually in an alpha state. For instance, a person who has taken a break from a conference and walks in the garden is often in alpha state. A person who has taken time off from a task and begins to daydream is often in theta brainwave state. The final brainwave state is delta, which is strong, deep, dreamless sleep. The lady who conducted the workshop proceeded to tell us that she would put us into the theta stage, but not to worry, because it was going to feel as if no change of awareness had occurred. She would let us know when we are in the theta stage, at which point she wanted us to think about a principle that we had been living by. That's all, no more. She told us that we would receive mental pictures as an answer. She wanted us to write those down so we could discuss them after she returned us from the beta stage of awareness. I had not brought any paper and pencils with me, but noticed that the lady next to me had a notepad and a bunch of pencils that were tied together with a rubber band. I asked her if she would give me a piece of paper and one of the pencils. She obliged smilingly. The lecturer put us into the theta stage and then told us to go ahead and concentrate on the principle we had been living by. Well, I questioned whether it was a good idea for me, a husband and father of 3 children, to be out 5 nights a week playing music. Immediately, images started popping up and I jotted them down. A man fixing a broken, leaking pipe with a wrench. A telephone off the hook. A dartboard. A pair of tennis shoes. A bike. After we returned to the alpha state, we were told to take a brief intermission, followed by a discussion of images received by the various people in the class. I asked the lady next to me if she had received any images, and she said no. I told her that I had received 5 and showed them to her. She got all excited and explained, I can identify with the first 3. And she continued, yesterday I was watching my husband trying to fix a leaking pipe leading to our swimming pool. My youngest child played with the phone in the club basement, knocked it off on the floor, and it came off the hook, and we could not get or make any phone calls all day until we discovered the phone and hooked it back up. We have a dartboard in the basement and played frequently. She could not identify with the tennis shoes and the bike. I knew immediately that the first 3 images came to me through the paper and pencil she had so graciously given me. When the class resumed, the lecturer asked if anybody had received any images. I raised my hand and explained what had happened. I precautioned that care should be taken not to touch anybody else's belongings, lest we get images from that person's life. She said that did not matter, because the subconscious mind would use any available source to answer the question. She told me to think about my principle and reevaluate my images. And she was right. 1. Broken pipe leading to the swimming pool. A week earlier, I had bought one of those big, above-ground, round swimming pools, and the kids and I had a good time putting it together, and then afterwards swimming in it. 2. A telephone off the hook. My wife, a school teacher, told me that it's okay for me to be out at night playing music, as long as I call her once on one of the intermissions. A dartboard. I had bought my son Mark a new dartboard for his upcoming birthday, because that's something we enjoyed doing together. A pair of tennis shoes. My wife and I had just finished a 6-week tennis clinic, and we had a great time doing it together. A bike. My daughter Elizabeth loved to ride her bike and kept begging me to give myself one so we could go on bike rides together. Thus, to me, the conclusion was that it's okay for me to be out 5 nights a week, provided I will do things and spend time with each member of my family. Over the years, I have developed this touch and receive ability. It is not something I do all the time, but it has become an interesting part of my life. For instance, a few years ago, I was invited to a Christmas party at a friend's house. When I arrived, my friend Anne came over and gave me a welcome hug. The moment she did, I saw a little black book with gold trim and the number 96. I told Anne what had just happened, and she exclaimed, I know exactly which book you're talking about. She asked me to follow her into the club basement to a chest of drawers. She pulled out one of the drawers, and there was the little black book. She opened it to page 96 and found a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it and looked at me with big, astounded eyes. The paper was her husband's will that she had been looking for ever since he had passed away. I could tell you numerous stories like this. However, to keep this video reasonably short, I will stop here. All these experiences show me that there is an underlying intelligence that has access to an infinite amount of sources of information that it can use to give us another view, a different perspective of things that are on our minds and principles that we live by. After numerous, continuous, and ever-increasing successes, I felt compelled to take this one step further. I wondered if that underlying intelligence could use a computer program to generate answers. In other words, I would create a simple program that would accept a statement or a principle, and then the computer would reply, which means actually it would be infinite intelligence using the computer to reply. I would furnish a basic set of numbered statements that the computer, infinite intelligence, could choose from to form its answer. After all, that is how we humans communicate. We have a set of words that we know, and we use those in different combinations to communicate with each other. Knowing nothing about computer programming, I decided to take programming courses at a local community college. The first language I learned was COBOL, which stands for Common Business Oriented Language. This particular language taught me how computers think. The second language I learned was GW Basic. I pretty much mastered it and created my first program. I would type in a question or statement, and it would choose one of 720 phrases that I created and put in the program. For instance, on June 22nd, 1987, I input the Berlin Wall. The computer picked 187, an appointment with the president. On June 12th, 1987, Ronald Reagan, our president, challenged Gorbachev to take down this wall. This is how my program worked. I would type in a phrase or word, the Berlin Wall, and hit enter. The program would record the input together with the date and time of the input, assign a number to the input, and then choose one of the 720 phrases. In this particular case, 187, an appointment with the president. It then asked me whether I wanted to leave a comment. If I left a comment, it would record it and associate it permanently with the input phrase. It would also research to see if any other inputs received 187 as an answer, and then display those inputs. This is very important. The comments would enhance and give additional meaning to and elaborate on the original phrase. In other words, more and more meanings will be attached to the phrase. The computer I used was a Commodore 64. It had very little memory and an external 170 kilobyte floppy drive for storage. In no time, I ran out of memory, and I was the only person using the program. There was no internet, so I could not share the program and invite other users. Thus, I stopped using it and devoted my time to other things. Forward to 2019. We have the internet, practically unlimited storage capacity, and a highly advanced computer languages. I was looking for a certain book, and in so doing came across a 3-ring binder containing my little program from almost 40 years ago. I glanced over it and the inputs and answers I had gotten way back then. This brief moment reignited the idea. Sleeping Beauty was awakened after 40 years of sleeping, and a new cycle of activity began. I have about 900 Facebook friends, so I put out the word whether anybody knows a computer programmer. I received a message from a friend named Janet, and her message was, "Helmut, I know a programmer. By the way, my mother used to sing in your band when I was a little girl, and my dad shot the cover photo for one of your albums." Strange. We started communicating and reminiscing, and she gave me the name and phone number of the programmer, John. I called him. We had a meeting in which I explained to him my little program. I asked him whether he would be able to bring it into the 21st century. He said he and a programmer friend named Jason could, and we came to an agreement. And here's the program. Originally, I had named the program or the website 1080 Answers. However, since it does not give you answers in the traditional meaning, but rather phrases for you to interpret, I have renamed it into 1080 Phrases. Now, before I give you the website, I have to very quickly summarize the purpose of the website. I believe there is an intelligence that pervades all of creation, from the tiniest subatomic particle to all of existence. Because it pervades everything, it also knows everything. I've come to believe this because of the numerous out-of-the-ordinary experiences that I just told you about. Some might be classified as weird, crazy, incredible, spooky, phantasmagorical, or whatever. Regular people have some of those experiences, but are afraid to mention them for fear of ridicule. So they are shoved into a drawer which is socially acceptable, labeled dreams. It has to be understood that in order for that infinite intelligence to communicate with us, it needs a vocabulary, a language that we both understand. Thus, I have given it 1080 phrases and my computer to work with. It now has to use those phrases or part of them and also the comments attached to them to communicate with us. For that reason, don't always take the response phrases literal. Search for hidden meanings. This is only an experiment to satisfy my curiosity. Enjoy the ride, and please let us see some of your descriptions of what you are thinking about and the resulting phrase. The website is www.1080phrases, phrases.com. One more thing, since you just listened to this video, when you get to the website, you do not have to read the introduction. However, if you go into the introduction, at the very end you will see a link to my Facebook group. If you would like to join my Facebook group, click on that little link at the very end of the introduction. Thank you.